Good morning. This is MSU Have Hope. Um, our guest this morning is our physician, Tressa Pinkleton from Seattle, Washington. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning,
Pinkleton.
John.
We're going to read a short disclaimer, and then we're going to jump into some questions some people have submitted, and some other things that we want to address as far as helping you on the protocol or questions doing with the Coimbra protocol. Give me a second here. I've done this the last two times where I accidentally close my page and then I have to find it again for our disclaimer. And wouldn't you know, I've got 1,000 notes, so I have to really scroll down. All right, here we go. This interview is from our own personal experiences, and we are not talking in specifics, but in general about our experience while dealing with the Coimbra protocol. We are not giving medical advice or addressing individual cases. And I want you to know, when you submit questions, we are not answering a question for your particular case. You need to talk to your doctor about that. We are speaking in general and not in specifics. Cases and results can vary using different methods. For this reason, medical protocols and methods of treating MS should be done with a licensed medical professional. Again, Dr. Pinkleton, thank you for joining us. And we're going to jump right into some questions here, if you don't mind.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Our first question has to deal, and I'll just ask it without reading it to you. It has to deal with sunlight and whether or not if we go out and expose, let's say 80% of our skin to sunlight, maybe in a half hour or so, we'll absorb 15,000, 20,000, I don't know what the number is, IU of vitamin D naturally from the sunlight. Do we subtract that from our daily amount, or how does that figure in? Do we do any adjustment at all?
Yeah, so that's a good question, especially since we're about to have the spring equinox and we're heading towards the summer. So first thing to note is that the amount of vitamin D that we can synthesize on our own really depends on where on the globe we are, how north or south from the equator we are, and what time of day it is, and our amount of clothing, sunscreen, that type of thing. Because just because it's bright and sunny outside doesn't mean we can actually synthesize vitamin D. For example, I live up in Seattle, and I'm not able to synthesize vitamin D most of the year because during the hours where I could, I'm inside working, or it's cold, right? Sometimes in June, I'm still wearing a cardigan. But for those of us that are able to go outside during those particular hours, with most of our skin exposed for 15 to 30 minutes without any sunblock, etc., we do tend to synthesize 15 to 20,000 IUs. And after we hit that 20,000 mark, the body stops that process. And for people that are able to do that, typically doses are adjusted seasonally. That's something that Dr. Coimbra taught me when I went and shadowed him and trained with him down in Brazil. I personally tend to wait until it starts to show up on the lab work because sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people think that they're getting outside and getting the sunlight like they think they are, but they really aren't. So before I make an assumption, I like to see labs shifting that way. But that is something that does happen on the protocol for the people that need that to happen.
I went to my neurologist and because like you just said, 15 or 30 minutes isn't going to hurt you. That's what I tell people all the time. You're not going to get skin cancer, probably, and you're not going to get ill from 15 minutes of sunshine. I went to my neurologist and had the best tan of my life. I was a golden bronze, and I loved it. And I was so orange and brown, he wanted to send me to the endocrinologist to have my liver checked because he thought I was jaundice. And I was like, no, I've got the best tan of my life. And I did. I went out for 15, 20 minutes a day. I set a timer and I sat in the sun, got my vitamin D naturally.
Mhm.
Our next question is, what are the required cofactors for the protocol? Magnesium, B12, etc. Is there a list? Is that is there a variation among providers?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, off the top of my head, Dr. Coimbra, he updates his cofactor schedule, every couple of years. And the most recent one, to the best of my memory, I think he sent out in the spring of or summer of last year, because it was right before I adjusted the CP multi, because I saw that and I made the adjustment. So they are magnesium, riboflavin, vitamins B5, B6, and I do this in my office all the time. Magnesium, riboflavin, B3, B5, B6, methylfolate, methylcobalamin, selenium, choline, chromium, and zinc. That's what they were for many years. And then he recently added vitamin A and strontium and silica. I might be wrong about the strontium. He might have just added the silica. I'd have to double check. And so those cofactors together help the body activate vitamin D. That's mainly the magnesium. They help to give the body nutrients to rebuild myelin sheath. Those are like specifically the choline, the zinc as well. They help to, vitamin D is not actually a vitamin, it's a hormone, and it will shift other hormonal systems in your body, which is why so many people will see acne or hair shedding when they first start the protocol. And so some of those B vitamins and other minerals help to shift the hormones back into balance. And then he recently, the vitamin A and the silica was to help, or is intended to help with the osteoporosis factor that we see with the protocol that you and I have discussed at length before. Dr. Coimbra has been developing this protocol for 10, 20, many years, and he has trained many doctors whom practice all over the world, and they might not have a really easily direct line to Dr. Coimbra. So as Dr. Coimbra updates the cofactor schedule, some people don't get that message. And so that's where you'll see some of the variations. They might be working off of an old list. I'm hooked into the WhatsApp group for the Brazilian Coimbra protocol doctors, and I will every now and then go through and check and translate from Portuguese, little snippets of conversations discussing the cofactor schedule so that I can keep apprised of everything.
Now, can I ask you, with your supplement, are you going to incorporate things as they,
I try my best. Yeah. And one thing I wanted to say before we move on to speaking about my supplement in particular is that vitamin D, it being a hormone, it being a hormone doesn't actually have to do anything with this. But anyways, vitamin D can and does, especially in high doses, affect our gut microbiome. And if you look at some of the old research, this is something that the medical community has kind of forgotten, but those B vitamins, those are mostly synthesized by our gut microbiome. And vitamin D can alter the microbiome to such a state where those bacteria aren't making those B vitamins as much as they used to. And so that's another reason to take kind of a B complex type of cofactor with the Coimbra protocol. And to the best of my knowledge, that's not why Dr. Coimbra includes those B vitamins, because when I was training with him, he was very specifically telling we give this because of this, we give this because of that. But some new research has posited that people that have been taking vitamin D at higher doses, especially over the past couple of years because of the pandemic, their B levels in their tissues are actually a little bit lower, and they're starting to show symptoms, and giving them a certain type of B complex has been able to help with that. So it's just something I want to throw out there. Now, in terms of the CP multi that I manufacture, the reason I do the CP multi is because when I was down in Brazil, Dr. Coimbra would hand his patients 2 prescriptions. One was for the vitamin D and one was for the cofactors. And they would take them to a compounding pharmacy and get everything. They get the vitamin D in a liquid and they'd get the cofactors all put into a pill. And that's awesome. It made things super simple. But up here in the States, we don't really have that type of pharmacy in a way that's affordable. And so I was having to piecemeal everything together for my patients. And I'm not exaggerating when I said some people were taking like 30 pills a day just for the protocol. It caused so much pill fatigue. So to help with that, I designed the CP multi, and I do try to keep it as close to Dr. Coimbra's prescription as possible and in one capsule that you take 4 times a day. Now, because of that, not everything can fit into that one capsule. So I had my last batch, I had the vitamin A added back in, but that put the capsule at the amount in the capsule at just a little over than what my manufacturer preferred. And so that doubled the manufacturing shipment time. And they didn't tell me it would do that, which is why I got back ordered so horrendously. And then it also causes a lot of the capsules to break open in shipping and kind of spill into the bottle, and then it smells, and because choline smells like fish. Anyway, so my CP multi is a little bit adjusted down. The vitamin A is going to be prescribed separately in a liquid that you just take 1 drop of a day, because that's easy as pie. And, instead of like 120 milligrams of choline, there's 100 milligrams of choline, just like little bits chipped down so that it can be easier for people to take.
Okay. Our next question is it absolutely necessary to have the multivitamin when starting the protocol? Got vitamin D and magnesium, but the other vitamin is out of stock. Should I wait?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, it's out of stock. I had a couple people purchase like 20 bottles, not just one. So my new shipment that came in sold out within a month. So first,
do you have any now?
No, I'm out. But my new shipment, they assured me I'll have it by the end of next month. And the CP multi is not like absolutely necessary, because people were doing the protocol before the CP multi ever came on the market, right?
That's what I just recently told someone.
So what I've been telling people is when I back order, and or if they don't want to use a CP multi, because that's fine, no one has to, that comes through my office, but get definitely the magnesium, 100%. That is the most important cofactor, is the magnesium. You got to have the magnesium. And then if you get like a B complex and maybe like something that has some choline or chromium in it, that should get you through until the CP multi comes back into on the market, or out of back order rather. I wouldn't recommend just not doing the cofactory nutrients forever, because I have had people come to me from trying to do it on their own and not getting that full cofactor panel. And when we put them on something like CP multi or add in the extra cofactors through other sources, they do, like, the acne settles down, the hair loss settles down, they start responding a little bit better to the protocol. So, those nutrients are there for a reason. So, it's okay if like a couple months or a few weeks you're not having them, but over the long period of time, they should be in there.
I knew somebody that whenever they started the protocol, they couldn't take B2. Now, why that is, I don't know. I'd never heard of that, but this was a long time ago. Mm-hmm. She was just taking magnesium and the D. And she said she couldn't take the B. And then I myself, when I started, big thing was taking activated B2. And I tried it and it didn't do anything for me. It's very expensive. but
Mhm.
it didn't change. For some people, they had miraculous results. I didn't.
Yeah, everybody's different genetically. There are different genetic mutations that allow us to tolerate one nutrient better than the other. Or sometimes we need another cofactor to kind of unlock the ability to use that nutrient efficiently. Um, Activated riboflavin can be pretty strong. Dr. Coimbra, he prescribes inactive riboflavin. My manufacturer only uses activated riboflavin, so I just drop the dose down by a third because that's essentially like the equivalent. Yeah, some people can't tolerate some of these, and that's why it's really good to work with a qualified, not just protocol doctor, because some doctors don't have the training about supplements, nutrients, vitamins, this type of thing, and others do. So it's good to find somebody that can kind of suss that out with you.
You hit something there that is very true. We all know that we have a genetic disposition that won't allow us to absorb the vitamin D. That's how we got MS. But even that varies in that some people it's 100,000 IU, and I know somebody taking over 400,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so, and actually, Dr. Coimbra had that person do a blood test and is having them genetically mapped to see why they won't absorb the vitamin D.
Well, vitamin,
So
it's more of the, it's vitamin D is fat soluble, so we're going to absorb it, but it's about the vitamin D receptor. How do we respond to the vitamin D, right? But not even just that, because we have genes that help us activate vitamin D. So sometimes the receptors are fine, but it's that activation problem that's the biggest issue, right? There's so much there's so much to learn about vitamin D, and we're learning more and more each year.
absolutely, couldn't agree with you more. Question number 10: how much niacin? Not number 10 for us. Number 4: how much niacin and thiamine is recommended, and what is the role of
Of
the
the B
B
group.
group in autoimmune generally?
Yeah. So if people are looking for specific amounts, they can go to my CP Multi website to see what's on the, like, that's essentially the list, except for the vitamin A. The vitamin A, what 1,000 4 times a day. I have to double check that. Is I think what Dr. Coimbra said. But the B group in autoimmune generally, like I said earlier, our gut microbiome makes B vitamins. B vitamins are used for so many biochemical processes with immune system regulation, tissue regeneration, hormone regulation. And there have been studies that show that people with autoimmune issues have kind of disordered gut microbiome. Now, we don't know if it's a chicken or egg situation, but one could see that if you give some B vitamins in a way that is healthy, because we can overdo it. B vitamins aren't as simple as the like, oh, you'll just pee out what you don't use. Like, yes, in a sense, but you can overdo it. So if you take the right kind of ratio of B vitamins, that helps with the immune system and tissue regeneration and feeling better and healing neuropathy, et cetera, et cetera.
The recommended amount for somebody doing the protocol as far as vitamin B?
Well,
B2,
vitamin B is like a group. So there's
B2, I mean,
B1, B2, B3,
as
B4, blah,
far
blah,
as
blah, blah, blah.
riboflavin goes.
Riboflavin. So Dr. Coimbra trained me where you start people off at 50 milligrams 4 times a day. And if they have migraines, you double that. And his explanation was that there is a genetic mutation that some people carry, and he sees it a lot with the people that have the vitamin D receptor mutation, where they have problems, I guess, activating their riboflavin. And so, and they tend to manifest with chronic migraines or headaches. And this is something that my field has known. You hear about, oh, you have migraines, take riboflavin, right? So he tends to do a higher dose for those people right off the bat. That won't fit in CP Multi. to keep it at 1 capsule. So I keep people at the lower dose. And then if they were chronic migraine sufferers and after a few months we haven't seen that shift, then maybe we'll look into increasing the riboflavin dose separately.
I have one other question if you have time.
I do. Mm-hmm.
The question is this. I had terrible, terrible, terrible headaches when I started the protocol. Because of that, I went off of vitamin D and went to a different type of vitamin D. Then I found out later from my protocol doctor that I could have backed it down and increased my water intake. Have you ever had that? And if so, what is your method for treating somebody with that condition?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on the person. Right off the bat, when I see somebody developing those headaches, I will tend to suggest increasing magnesium because that's a sign of magnesium deficiency. And we know that the protocol with the amounts of vitamin D people are on uses up so much magnesium. Because remember, the starting dose of magnesium for the protocol is 100 milligrams 4 times a day, but most people end up on 8 to 1200 milligrams divided into doses throughout the day. So that's what I'll first do. And if that doesn't, shift it, then we discuss. Sometimes, if you remember how vitamin D affects the microbiome, that can cause some die-off reactions. And then people are absorbing those endotoxins and from the bacteria, and it can cause a headache. So, sometimes people do need to drink more water. Sometimes the dietary changes that they make to accommodate the protocol pushes them into eating more processed foods like the fake cheeses, etc. And that, maybe you're reacting to whatever weird gum is in all of these like fake cheeses that you've never encountered before, Right. So it really depends. It tends to be a longer conversation, but you're correct in the water, and then also especially the magnesium are where I first look.
Good to know. Well, that's all our questions for today. Thank you for joining us and answering all our questions. Look forward to getting together with you again. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. And people, I'm going to say this again, she does this for free. And so don't give me any crap or give her any crap or I'm going to get rid of you. Just kidding. No, but please understand, we do this for your benefit and to help you, because I know when I started, there wasn't anything like this, and this is very helpful. So again, Dr. Pinkleton, thank you.
You're welcome. And thanks for having me.
Look forward to getting together again with you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.